But hopefully you're in the right room, which is you're here to talk about study abroad. If not, I won't be hurt if you have to go to the next CASP chat.
I also want to remind participants that this session will be recorded. So yeah.
Cassandra, I forgot to ask you, do you want me to start at 2:35 or what? I don't know what the transition between the programs for today's sessions are.
You could start whenever you'd like.
I think now's a good enough time. And then we'll just help your peers catch up once they show up. Okay. Buenas tardes. My name is Luis Gaspi. My gender pronouns are he, him, his, y, él in español. I'm a study abroad advisor on the campus, and I'm excited to present information around studying abroad, studying away. Full disclosure, as Cassandra, your peer, has said, this session is being recorded. Secondly, it really helps as a presenter for you to ask me questions, to have a dialogue. Dialogue could be in the chat box. Cassandra and I will monitor it too. Belinda, the director of the program, is here with us too. I'm sure Belinda can also check in on that. I'm pretty good at like keeping track of both the screen and keeping you all entertained. We're here together for 45 minutes, so 3:15. Honestly, as a presenter, I would fail if I don't.
What did I say? You literally could have shot her.
If I don't answer your questions. So if there's a burning question and you're like, wait, stop, Luis, like, I don't want to hear anything besides like, how do I finance? Or how do I get my family to agree to me studying abroad? Or what's happening with COVID, blah, blah, blah. Stop me. I'd rather have the dialogue and answer that question because you're not paying attention to me. And ultimately, this is really about supporting you all in your time here at UC San Diego, both for studying abroad and beyond. Study abroad takes a very holistic approach around how do we support you all in your career at UC San Diego and beyond. So if you think I can help you, let me know. Also, Zoom like logistics. I really love seeing your faces. I understand that these are very difficult times. We may not have technology. Our bandwidth of our internet may not be the best. You may be working alongside your family or your peer, your roommate, your partner, whatever it may be. As a presenter, it's nice to see your face. It is not a requirement, but it does, you know, it changes the dynamic, and it lets me know that I'm not just talking by myself. I also really, really appreciate when you all talk with me. I think communication skills, oral communication skills are very important. I know it could be really scary sometimes to unmute, and you might have been socialized in other classrooms or other spaces. Mute, raise your hand. I'm really not that picky. It's okay that your dog is, you know, barking. It's okay that your family members in the room, in the kitchen, you know, banging on something or making lunch or dinner, whatever it may be. It's the reality of where we're at. So we need to normalize it. I'm actually a big fan of unmuting. So please feel free to unmute. I will not ding you on it. I will not get upset at you. I think we're doing our best to get by in this very unfortunate circumstance. So, hey, Ria's here too. All these great people. Okay, how does that sound? Great. I also need a lot of perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. Any thumbs up, whether if you have your camera on, it really helps me out a lot. I'm a deeply, deeply insecure person. And so I just sometimes need some verbal confirmations or sometimes thumbs up. Isabella, I'm loving all the energy you're giving me. So much.
I got you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, let me share my screen. I'm looking towards my CASP colleagues, Ria, Cassandra, and I think Belinda was here for a second. Do you need any housekeeping or do you want to talk to your students, our students?
No, I think we're good. Just jumping in, seeing if you need anything. Sounds like y'all are doing great. Thanks so much, Luis, for being here. You're in really good hands. I see Belinda's thumbs up too, so we are good. I'm gonna go help troubleshoot for another student, but thank you so much, Luis.
Thank you so much. All right. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go back and forth between sharing my screen because I like to see you all. It's really nice to see your smiling faces or whatever face you're having. You don't have to smile, I also have to catch myself there. But so, Cassandra, if you can do me a huge favor, because when I share screen, I sometimes lose. I have two screens. I can see both of you, but I'll be looking here to look at the presentation. Can I get a? But anyways, Cassandra, if you could just, obviously, I know you know, keep an eye on in case anyone's raising their hands or something in the chat box, and be like, I'll be very honest with all you all. I rarely look at the chat because I really like you unmuting. I think we need to practice oral communication way more. That's just my perspective though. But I don't want to discourage it. I know sometimes we don't have the technology or it can be nerve-wracking. Can someone confirm you could see my presentation?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So like I said, study abroad. Thank you, Karina. In case you didn't know, the session's being recorded. I totally understand if you don't feel comfortable, and that's why you don't want to turn your camera. That's also okay. But just so you know, it's being recorded. Quick agenda. I think you should know where we're going for the next 45 minutes or, now 40 minutes. I'm going to give a quick introduction of who I am so you know, like, why is Luis talking to us? Factors to consider when studying abroad, the program options that are available to you here at UC San Diego, the impact of COVID on studying abroad. It's really, really important. Obviously, it has shaped the world in different ways. And then any questions you have, like I said, if I cannot stress it enough, stop me. I'd rather answer your questions now than wait till the end of it, because it'll make a much more engaging next 40 minutes. Is there anyone who wants to add or modify to this agenda? You're like, oh yeah, Luis, like I thought we were gonna do something else. I thought you were gonna talk about blah, blah, blah. Like it's helpful for me as a presenter to know this is what's on the mind of Valeria, or this is what's on the mind of Sandy, or this is what Angelica wants to have an answer to, or Nina.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it, Renee.
I don't like asking questions at the beginning because I feel like it's gonna be answered in the thing. But when is what year can we start studying abroad?
What year are you, Renee?
Freshman.
You're a first year student. Well, welcome and congratulations on your admission. It's actually, I do want to poll you all to know who you are. So Renee, I'll answer your question. No, like this is the best thing. You're doing what I asked you to. So I really, really appreciate you, Renee. Kudos to you. When can you study? For most of you who are first year students, or if this is your first quarter as a transfer student, the earliest you can study abroad, if you're a transfer student, it's a little bit easier, but you probably had to do a little bit more legwork, but we could work on it. I'm all for an adventure. You could go as early as winter quarter. That's pretty fast, but some of you are up for the challenge, and the staff will help you out there. But likely most of you, the earliest you'll go is the summer of 2022. But some of you with planning, especially because we're now we're about to be at the beginning of August, there's some programs you could still be eligible for winter, spring. There's not as many, but you could, and then we could guide you through the process should you want to be like, yep, I just got to UCSD, but actually I want to go abroad immediately. Does that answer your question, Renee?
Yes, thank you a lot.
See, I love this. More questions, like keep them coming. I'll pause. I realize I'm like really excited to see you all. Like as I'm sure you can see. A little bit about myself to kind of start the conversation. Just sometimes it helps. I went to UC Davis and I graduated in 2012. My degree's in broadly in apparel marketing. I'm not a fashion marketer. That's what I thought I would do. I had the opportunity to study abroad 3 times. I did a year-long study at Melbourne University in Australia, where I primarily studied marketing in 2010. I did a summer faculty program, which is what this photo is of me in the southern part of India, primarily in Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu, with a comparative religious, and it was like a G requirement at UC Davis for me. And then I did a semester at a business school because I was primarily wanting to become a fashion marketer. So I went to a business school in Milan, Italy. And so I have quite a bit of experience on a personal account, and I've been working in study abroad or ed abroad since 2012. So over 10, or shy of like 9 years, right? Or around 9-10 years. My mathematicians can help me later. And so I'm very passionate about encouraging you all to have some kind of global experience, whether it's doing a study away. Some of us have never, and I'm going to start asking you questions because it's always nice to know the audience. Some of us have never left San Diego. Some of us have never left the state of California or Southern California, whatever kind of geographic region. And coming to UCSD might be the first time we're leaving home for many of us. And so these are really great opportunities to push a little bit further and think, well, I want to go somewhere else. And that somewhere else may be around the world, or that somewhere else may be, you know, to Seattle, to Washington, or it might be UC participating in like a program like UCDC, or a program that might take you to a different city within the US, because the US is a huge country with a lot of history and a lot of opportunities. All right, this is your time to talk with me. Now that I shared a little bit about myself, it would be nice to know a little bit about you all. Can you, and I'll keep track of it in the chat box, but can you all type in like what year you're in? And then I'll see it cascade. Thank you, Isabella. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is very helpful for me. Thank you, Brianna. Okay, next up, a common question is, what is, and you're also welcome to unmute too. Like I know, but sometimes it's nice for me to quickly see it, is what's your major? Do you have a declared major? Public health, Angelica, thank you. Anna, human bio, computer science, music, clinical psychology, molecular, okay. First year human bio. Psychology, great. Is anyone undeclared? Thanks, Renee. All right. How many of you know or have an idea of where you would like to study abroad, like as a location? I see no from Manuel. Spain, Japan, Geneva, Germany, South Korea. Thanks, Mary. Italy, maybe Korea, Angelica. Karina, you have Japan, Korea. Poland, Sweden. Thank you, Lee. Great. Okay. Wonderful. This helps a lot. Like, it's good to see like where you're all thinking. It's anyone? Matthew, did you have something?
Oh, no, sorry. I just joined. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. No need to apologize. Somewhere in Europe or Japan. Gracias, Marcos. Is there a question that's top of mind right now? I feel like I said we're in Japan, San Diego would never see me again. Okay. Yeah, maybe you'll come back. Trust me, you have to come back to finish your degree. Is there a question that any of you are like, I want this answered right now? You can drop it in the chat box or you can unmute right now.
I guess I have a question, and
for it.
sorry if this is a really dumb one, but what
There's
is
no dumb question.
studying abroad? Like I've
I'm
heard
sorry?
about it for the longest time, but I don't know what studying abroad even means. I've always
I love this. I love this question. Let me stop my share. Is your name pronounced Lee?
Yep, it's perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Lee. Great question. What is study abroad? So study abroad is the act of primarily in the most general sense is like studying abroad for some form of experience around the world. It has now broadly been changing because the field of global education understands that there are many reasons why when we want an intercultural, a multicultural experience where we're experiencing otherness or difference within cultures, that they can happen in our own country. They can happen within the county of San Diego. Oh, actually, I forgot to ask you this. So anyways, it's an experience that you have somewhere else that may broaden your abilities, both academically, personally, and professionally. And so it can encompass a gamut of different experience. It could be formal study where you're studying abroad in a different host university that may intake you in those traditional models, which are exchange models. So then Lee, you might say, Lee, can I pick on you for a little bit? What
Sure.
major are you?
Computer engineering.
Computer engineering. Do you know where you'd like to go?
Do you mean like what?
Yeah.
Country?
Like a region or a location around
Oh
the
yeah,
world?
Europe. I'm same boat as some of the other people, Europe or Japan. I was the one
Europe
who
or-
put Poland or Sweden.
Oh, cool. And then, and what year are you again?
I'm a first year transfer, so I'd be going into, I guess, the third year.
Okay, wonderful. So let's say you wanted to go study at like the University of Maastricht in the Netherlands that would have like your computer engineering work, and you would be an exchange student. So someone at the University of Maastricht would come to UC San Diego or throughout the UC system and would take your seat while you take a seat for that student, and there's a formal exchange. Those are traditional models of study abroad. Then there's other examples where like the UC San Diego faculty, and we'll talk about the program models loosely, but then in the summer, there's programs that your faculty here at UC San Diego will teach a class that's already taught on the campus, but will use the global setting to be able to teach you, or some other setting outside of UCSD to teach you the class, and you get credit, and you know it's going to count for degree requirements. It's already a course already part of the catalog at the university. Then there's other programs that are experiential in nature. So we have programs that are like research-based. So let's say, Lee, you wanted to work on, like, there's great programs in Asia that allow you to do research, and you're like, Luis, I want to go on to get my master's, I want to go on to get my PhD. This could be a great training ground where you get the global experience and you're not in a classroom setting, but you're doing something hands-on, such as research. Or some of you, many of us are interested, like, what am I going to do after I graduate from UCSD? And so our jobs are top of mind. And so internships, opportunities are really helpful. Some of us want to do community-based work, like service learning opportunities. So study abroad is really this huge umbrella as to having an experience that is somewhere away from your home campus. And for all of you, your home campus is UC San Diego. I'm also long-winded, so sometimes you have to be like, okay, I get it, Luis. Just a simple answer. Did
No,
that
was
answer your
perfect.
question, Lee?
That did. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
have a follow-up question to like
Go for
everything you kind of explained. So then how many locations can you really like transfer to? Like, does that make sense? Because I know there's like certain countries you could go to, and certain countries you can't. So do you know how many like fall under UC San Diego's like jurisdiction where we could go to?
Yeah. So let's clarify a few things. So the word transfer, I just want to make sure we understand, like, so for all these programs that we advise for, primarily they're credit bearing. So you're going to get some kind of academic units added to your transcript. So some programs are not transfer coursework, right? So I just want to catch that in case that's, and it may not be what you're meaning, Isabella, but I just want to catch it. Some programs will require you to transfer the units in, and admissions will be part of it. A lot of the programs we advise for, it's already integrated into your transcript. So like the program you see, AP, the system-wide exchange program, or our faculty-led program, global seminars, it's not transfer credit. Now, in terms of the answer, UC San Diego is probably the most liberal of the 9 undergraduate campuses. We'll send you wherever you want. Unless there's like a travel advisory, which in some countries there are, there's restrictions in which the university will have to either talk to you about like signing disclosure agreements saying like, hey, I assume this risk. And the university will tell you like, we can't like rightfully send you into a war zone, right? And so every once in a while, some of you will surprise us and you'll like, we'll advise you from a legal standpoint. But in general, it's very surprising that you all can stump us in terms of locations. So it's hard to quantify it theoretically, all the countries of the world. It assumes that there's a program, and it assumes that there's, you know, an interest from you, the student. I would say at UC San Diego, most of you go to about, like in an academic year, about 25 to 30 countries, with most of those countries being in Western Europe. Like the top charts in terms of like where you all as UCSD students go, not in exact order, is oftentimes Italy, Spain, the UK, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea. Those are the top probably like 6 countries that you all will go to. And then you all will kind of go from there. Latin America, Asia, South Africa. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
See, like this is way more fun for me to just answer your questions. I'm gonna go back to the presentation, but feel free to stop me and be like, I have another question, Luis. All right. So with studying abroad, sorry, I'm getting over this cold. There's a lot of factors to consider, and we're going to go over some of the factors that you all as students should be considering. And I'm going to just plant some ideas or questions in your head so that it helps us, the study abroad advisor, and the staff help you make sense of where are you going, what program will be the best fit for you. So first, timing is a really important thing. Some of you have already asked it. When do I go? Do I go? I want to go as quickly as possible. I know I just got to UCSD, but I want to go tomorrow, right? And so that's a really important thing to consider. When am I ready to go? Every program will have different requirements as to what your eligibility will be. Most programs will have some unit-based requirement, like it'll say you have to have 15 units or you have to have been a sophomore by the time of the program. That oftentimes has to do with the coursework you're going to take, because there are many programs that might say, we want you to be in your upper division coursework because that's all the classes we're offering. Alternatively, there's some programs that might say, let's say like a Spanish language program. There might be a program that says, you cannot have studied Spanish at all because this program is intended for students who are taking a Spanish 1 class, period. And so then there's that will factor to like when you will go. We are in a quarter system. most programs are designed on a semester system when you're going abroad. Not all of them, unless they're constructed by the UC that's keenly aware as a large institution that's on a quarter system, but most of the programs will be built around a semester system. So then we have to advise you about what does it mean to go abroad for fall semester? And so are you okay with making your summer shorter? Most of you will say yes. Most students at UCSD go in the fall semester or the summer because it fits very nicely in your academic terms. But some of you will go abroad for spring semester. And then that means how do we adjust for the fact that you were supposed to be on campus for 2 quarters, which oftentimes yields more classes and more units. Does that make sense? Does anyone know what is the traditional course load at UCSD? Like how many classes, how many units? Does anyone want to give a guess?
Like 15 units.
Uh-huh.
Right? Yeah. For
So
like full time.
Yeah. Most of you will take 4 classes, and at UCSD, most classes are 4 units. So most of you will average 16 units in a quarter, but you'll talk with your academic advisors. You'll work with Belinda's staff to also talk about what fits for you. So while that's the average or what most of you take, it is if you take less or more, that's also okay. Like you'll talk with your academic advisors, but also understanding that applications, when do you all think the applications for studying abroad are? Any guesses?
A year before?
Yeah. Most of them will be a year before. I would say, and I just saw that some of you are chatting as well, sorry. I would say most of your deadlines. So for those of you who are like eager to go like immediately, and immediately for most of you will be summer, your deadlines are going to be as early as January for most of you. Like January to like March will be most of when you'll go. If some of you are like uber eager and you're going to go abroad for winter, spring, your deadline might be as early as September or October. So you really want to engage us study abroad as quickly as possible. If you know, hey, Luis, I want to go abroad as quickly as possible. But most of you will likely go abroad the earliest summer of 2022. So your deadlines, you're going to plan this upcoming September, October, November to get ready to submit your application sometime at the beginning of 2022. But the general rule of thumb is at least a year in advance. And so we can then tell you study abroad like, hey, Karina, it's okay. Like you can actually come back 6 months before because you want to go in the summer. Perfect, right? And then you have that verbal confirmation from us.
I have a question as well.
Go for it.
So let's say I go to like Japan for abroad for like a semester or whatever. Would the class be taking place like in Japanese or would it be in English?
Great question. You get to be the driver, Renee. So there are many programs that are taught in English, and then it depends on where you're going. So the location, so on this slide, it makes sense here too. There's certain countries where they don't have the infrastructure to teach in English. The country is just designed in a certain way where the assumption, if their primary language is a different language than English, then probably their institutions are not teaching in a different language. I'll say this is very common in certain countries that are very popular. So like Spain will oftentimes teach a lot of programs in Spanish at their host universities. And so it'll be assumed that you will study in Spanish or that you're probably taking a program that's intended for international populations. So Renee, for you in Japan, historically, a lot of programs in Japan are taught in Japanese. And there are programs that are intended for international student populations. And so depending on your language proficiency, it'll shift the kind of program that is being offered. Does that make sense? Yes, no, Renee?
Yes, sorry.
So you get to decide, like we'll guide you. You'll tell us, hey, ideally the program would do A, B, C, and D. And we'll tell you, okay, here's a program offering, like this is what's typically offered in this country. And then we might have to tell you, hey, Japan doesn't have the infrastructure to teach you. Renee, what do you study? What's your major?
Undeclared.
Undeclared, that's right. And you said, but potentially mathematics?
Yes.
So let's say mathematics is only taught in Japanese in Japan, like period, hard stop. But you can do social sciences because the universities or the programs in Japan offer English taught courses. And so then you get to decide and be like, well, I really want to go to Japan. I'm unwilling to compromise on location. I have to then work with my academic advisors and the staff at Study Abroad to understand what does it mean that I won't be doing coursework for my major. And some of you will do courses outside of your majors. So you'll be doing courses for your GEs, you'll be doing things for your minors, you'll be doing other things to complete your degree requirements at UCSD. And we work with you throughout the entire process. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
It's a very flexible process. And to be honest with you, the key message that I, as a study abroad advisor, want to deliver is like, come talk to us, have a one-on-one appointment with an advisor, come talk to me, come talk to any of the other colleagues that I have, and have a chat with us and be like, hey, this is what I'd like to see happen, or this is who I am. And then we start to help you figure out like, what is within the realm of possibility. I'm going to take a pause because I know I talk a lot. Other questions, comments? All right. So location. Location is oftentimes the first marker that you all as students will start. Many of you will have wanderlust, and that's right. That's fine, right? Like it's how it oftentimes begins for many of you, and how most of you will start your search is like, I want to go to this specific city. I want to go to Buenos Aires. I want to go to Bogota. I want to go to Hong Kong. Whatever it may be for XYZ reason. Oftentimes location will drive the search factor first. And you have to think about things like, do I want to be in an urban setting? Do I want to be in a rural setting? Some of us want to be in the biggest city ever. And so therefore you might choose Singapore, you might choose London, or you might choose, I don't know, Shanghai. Or some of you may be like, I want to be next to the beach. And so I chose Barcelona. All these factors similar to selecting UC San Diego as your institution will be once again being refactored into your study abroad. You may also say, I want to go into a city where I can feel like a local, and therefore a big city, sorry for the truck, a big city like London, I might get lost in the crowd. So maybe I need to go to a smaller city within the UK. Housing is a really important thing. Some programs will have built-in housing such as homestays where you get to live with the local family, and you might really enjoy that. While some of you may be asked to live in an international dorm with other international students, or you may find your own private housing. So all these factors are part of the program, like search process to understand, is this the right fit for me? Language will also oftentimes drive your decision-making process in studying abroad. Some of you, actually, this is a really great question to ask. What are the languages we all speak, understand, know right now, are learning? Drop them in the chat box or unmute yourself. Spanish, English, ASL, Korean, English, Spanish, Korean, Spanish, Japanese. Awesome. Italian, little French. So with all these languages that you all speak, you may decide, I want to go to a country where I already know the language and I want to get better at it. I want to practice in it. I want to take classes in that language. Or alternatively, you might be like, I've always wanted to learn Dutch. For whatever reason, I have a best friend who's Dutch, or I've heard really great things and it's something that fascinates me. That may be a decision-making process. You might also, like we talked earlier, decide, well, I speak English and I really don't know if I'm gonna have the time to study the language beforehand, and therefore I need a program that's fully taught in English. I push you all to try to learn the language of the host country because it changes the dynamic of the experience. Even if we can guarantee you your classes in English or whatever language you know, it'll change the dynamic and the experience. And many of you will come back and talk to us at Study Abroad and say like, because I knew Spanish and when I was in Colombia, I really got to meet the locals and I had a different experience than those who only spoke English. Does that make sense? And then you get to decide, like it's a really remarkable opportunity. I push a lot of you, I primarily advise for the Spanish speaking world. I push a lot of you to really consider what would it be like to take a class in the language that is the dominant language of the host country. And many of you, while being challenged, and it may be difficult at first, really find it rewarding to come back and say, you know what, I went to Korea and it was hard to take my classes fully in Korean, but it was ultimately the most rewarding experience because I'm really fluent in Korean now. And I'm gonna go on to live in Korea after I graduate from UCC. That happens very often with those of you who are interested in living in a different country, is to push yourself to learn the language before you go abroad and while you're there. I'll pause for any questions that are arising.
So let's say you decide to take, right, all of your courses in the language of the country you're staying at. What happens if, like, once you're there, you realize you can't, like, you try to keep up, but you couldn't keep up with all of, like, your classes being, for example, Japanese? Like, can you make changes from, like, all of the the Japanese only classes to, like, English speaking classes?
Isabel, like, it's a sink or swim situation in study abroad. Like, you're left to figure it out. No, in all honesty, if a program is taught in a different language, you will have to prove that you have proficiency. So either through coursework at UCSD or at a different academic institution that shows, hey, I have taken the first level of Japanese language at a different institution or at UCSD. So that will gauge it. There's on-site support, like you're not left without any resources. Oftentimes what will end up happening is there's a growth period. So let's say in your example, you go to Japan, you're in Kyoto, and you're in a program and you're struggling the first few weeks. That's natural. And so we then have to give you the resources, whether it's an additional tutor or going to office hours with your faculty there so that they can help you or your peers. It's quite rare that you're left alone. And it's quite rare that the eligibility criteria that's intended to help you succeed. So whether it's like showing proof you have the proficiency through coursework or through an AP exam or through an oral examination or a written examination of that a faculty member who's trained to evaluate language proficiency. So it's rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. What is more common is that there's a period of growth. So the first few weeks, a lot of you will be like, hey, Luis, it was so hard. Like I struggled. I had to like stay, on top of my studies. I had to like find tutors. I had to like work with my peers. I had to work with my faculty. But most of you make it work.
All right, thanks.
Finances is one of the biggest factors of studying abroad, and it's one of the biggest real and perceived barriers of studying abroad. It's a thing that we at Study Abroad take into consideration in discussing this. It's like, how do I finance this experience? So there are programs that range. It's hard to tell you like what a program costs because some of you don't even know how much UCSD costs. And that's also okay. You should know how much it costs because it's pretty expensive. But that being said, finances become a big part in terms of like, how do you make this experience happen? So we work with CASP, we work with financial aid, we work with our scholarships team at UCSD to provide you with the funding, the resources around funding. How do you like, what does it mean? How do you apply for scholarships? What scholarships are out there? Do I borrow money? When is it advantageous to borrow money? And is it ideal for me to borrow money? You all, as Chancellor's Associate Scholar Program recipients, can take your scholarship in very specific programs. We'll work with Belinda's staff, and we know what programs there are, but there are programs where you get to take your scholarship with you. They're mostly fall, winter, spring programs through the UCAP program. So we'll have a conversation about that and how you can use your scholarship that you already have through CASP to study abroad, and that will help pay for the experience. Then there's other ways that we encourage you in terms of like, how do you finance this program? As you see in 2018-19, which was the last cycle of students who were able to study abroad before the pandemic began, the scholarship office awarded shy of $1 million for you all to study abroad. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. We have a financial aid officer on staff who works full time, who can meet with you also to discuss your very specific situation so that you understand, hey, is this possible for me? What does it look like? And I'll be very honest, sometimes some of you will be like, I want this program. And sometimes it's a matter of like shifting the program because the program you chose is one of the most expensive. And the way that your scholarships, your grants, your loans, what is known as your financial aid package, adjust to studying abroad may not work. And so we tell you, hey, can you consider going on this term, or let's find you an alternative program that meets your needs, but will help you finance the experience. And most of you are pretty flexible, but you'd be surprised. Some of you will, and it's not really the dollar value. It just really depends on what your aid package looks like. So I'm also not here to like plant this idea of like, avoid the program that's worth X thousands of dollars, because it really is dependent on what your aid package is. I'll stop there because oftentimes questions around finance become real. Questions, comments, thoughts. Also, before anyone asks questions, if it's about a very personal matter, I'm okay answering your question, but we can also have like a chat offline so that other people don't know your personal life around finances. Like, just want to be very sensitive to that, but you're welcome to ask it. I will never not allow you to. I'm just very mindful it's being recorded, and like these are very personal items. Does that make sense?
I have a question.
Go for it.
Can you study abroad more than once? Like if it's
Yeah.
a shorter program?
It doesn't have to be a shorter program. Part of what will happen, Stephen, is for those of you who want to study abroad more than once, it's just a lot of planning. It's just like making sure, like, Stephen, what year are you and what's your major?
I'm a junior. I'm studying linguistics.
Okay, linguistics. Obviously, it makes sense that you would want to study abroad multiple times. Linguistics sends a lot of students abroad. So let's say you want to do like a summer in 2022, and then you also want to go abroad in the fall. That can happen. Or you might do like winter, spring, and then you'll go in the summer, and then you'll go your spring quarter of your graduating year. It's very common. Many of you will study abroad more than once.
So it just depends on like financial aid and financing it.
It depends on financing, and it depends on your degree requirements. So you all have to do degree requirements. The goal is to get you out of UCSD with a degree, move on to bigger and better. And so we'll send you to go meet with your academic advisors, and then your advisors will tell you, hey, Stephen, because you want to go abroad 2 times, 3 times, this is what's going to happen from a degree requirement standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I love it. I encourage it. I did 3 times, so I'm a little biased there. But if you can swing it, a lot of you really enjoy it because then you have a comparative model. And some of you will go to the same country more than once. And some of you may decide, hey, I really want to see, let's say you're an education studies student and you want to see what does education science offer in Japan compared to France, and then compared to Ecuador. And so really understanding different educational models, because you're going to go off to become a teacher, or you're going to go off to become an academic. And so that could be really cool too, to like compare and contrast models. Or you're just like, I just want to go to multiple places.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm so sorry about this cough. More questions, comments?
Do you know off the top of your head which places in Italy you all have connections with? I see on the website it's just Rome and Florence. Is that it?
No. So most students who go to Italy Florence is very popular. It's a haven for study abroad. Rome is obviously very popular. Students have gone to multiple cities, but the most common are probably Rome, Florence, Milan is another destination. UCP has a partnership at Bocconi. Yeah, I mean, most, like, Italy is a very common country that has study abroad programs. And it really would depend on you and like what city you would prefer, town you would like to go to in Italy.
Okay. Where could I see all those options? Is it on that website?
Yeah, so if you go to studyabroad.ucc.edu, you'll
Okay.
go find a program,
Kind of.
and then it'll list all the different program options. But to be
Perfect.
honest with you, some of the programs will not be listed on our website. Every once in a while, some of you will be like, hey, I'm from Italy. I have family in Italy. My best friend is studying in Italy. My partner, the person I'm dating, whatever it may be, my roommate, my sibling, and they're going to this program. Can I go? And if we can send you on it, and if it's the program you want to go to, we'll help you work it out. And so sometimes UCC does not have an existing relationship with that program, but we'll do everything we can to like help you make your ideal program be the program that you go on.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I have a question.
Go for it.
How would the application work? Like, do we need to prepare essays, or do we just sign up with the university? How does that work?
So every program will be different. My personal recommendation at this stage is the application process is just mechanical. It's very like, we'll give you the step-by-step guidelines, and we, the staff, will guide you through it. I would focus on the questions of like, where do I want to go? How does this place or program help me with my personal academic professional goals? And then we, the staff, will help you be like, hey, do you pronounce your name Janai?
Yes, Janai.
Janai. So then Janai, then we would tell you, hey, here, the program that you want to go to, here's the application procedure. This is what you have to do. In general, just so you have an idea to answer the question, Janai, most programs will ask us a kind of application that will be oftentimes like, what's your major? What year are you in? Like kind of biographical academic information. Some of them will ask for essays. A lot of them don't, but some of them will ask like, why are you studying abroad? How is this program beneficial to your goals? Quite rarely from an access standpoint, most organizations are trying to shy away from it because we know it might discourage some of you from studying abroad, and our entire goal is to get you to go abroad. But every once in a while, some programs may say, hey, we need to know that this is actually a good fit for you, or the program may be selective and they may only have 2 spots, 5 spots, 10 spots. It's quite rare, but there are some programs that will have requirements like this. And then sometimes we'll ask you for things like your transcripts. Like we need to know what classes you've completed, how many units, do you have the language requirements, and your transcript shows proof of what you've taken. And then other times it'll be things like, send us a copy of your passport. We need to know that you could get on a plane and that you have the right visa or the right documents in order to travel across the world. But I would just, I mean, it really depends on what the program is. Some programs will have very specific requirements that don't apply globally. But I would say when you're at that stage, We Study Abroad will guide you through the process.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
I'm mindful we have 3 more minutes together. So this is like an ideal time to say like, I have more questions, Luis, or this hasn't been answered.
What are the
Can we talk about?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can we talk about more of like studying abroad? You know, with COVID around now.
Yeah. Okay, let me skip to that. Ta-da. So, COVID. At present, so we Study Abroad UC San Diego are clearly keenly aware of what's happening with COVID. So we will always ask you all to have a contingency plan, especially what's happened over the last 16 plus months, right? Programs are operating. There are a bunch of contingency plans to keep you all safe and secure. Always, this is the reality of Study Abroad. It's always about like, how do we keep you safe? You all are interested in like, I want to go see the Eiffel Tower, and we Study Abroad in the university are like, how do we make sure you come back, like, and you're fine and nothing happens to you? And your families are also thinking the same thing, and you are likely thinking the same thing. So, depending on the program you're studying abroad on, you will be advised on like, what are the contingencies should there be an outbreak? Should the program be suspended because of COVID? There have been many cancellations because of what's happened globally around the pandemic and this virus. It really is contextual to the region because to the extent that you all are following what is happening with the pandemic, every country and location is in different state, similar to what's happening in the US, state by state, city by city, region by region, it's all slightly different. So we Study Abroad are keeping afloat to be able to be like, hey, actually this country you can't go abroad on because they have an outbreak, or they're not intaking students, or you can't get a visa because their embassy won't allow you to meet them to get the requirements to go there. There are many policies that are being created as we speak. At present, there are a cohort of students that will be going abroad in the fall. And we're hoping that those students, your peers, will get to go abroad in the fall. It really, unfortunately, is like many cases for the last 16 plus months where programs have had to be suspended and you all as students have had to rechange your plans. And some of your peers have had to, decide, okay, I'll defer to the next semester, to the next quarter. And so we Study Abroad will advise you on the process and tell you what happens if the program gets suspended, what happens if the program is canceled, what happens if you have to shift your decision. More so than ever before, planning in the future is really, really important, especially for you all. You will likely be the first cohort of students who will get to go abroad. So planning is the most essential thing. Natalia, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right. I'm aware it's 3:15. I'm aware that you probably have a different program, but I want to stay on if you have more questions or if I can help you in any way.
I have a question.
Go for it, Marcos.
So if you live on campus and you decide to study abroad, what will happen to your dorm? Do you still keep it?
It's a great question, Marcos. So you'll work with HDH, Housing, Dining, Hospitality, and let them know, hey, I'm going abroad for the fall quarter. And then it's quite common that HDH has a way to figure it out with you all. They'll tell you the protocol. They'll tell you, okay, this is what can be realistic about it. I'll leave it at that. It'll be a discussion between study abroad, HDH, wherever you're living on campus to understand like, hey, I want to live on campus. I'm going to be abroad for the fall semester, for the fall quarter, the fall semester. What do I have to do? And then they oftentimes will either fill the vacancy and then give you a different housing unit when you come back. What typically happens, Marcos, I'll be very transparent. Sometimes, let's say, Marcos, what college are you in?
Mere College.
So you're at Muir. So what oftentimes happens is the university may say, yeah, we'll give you housing, but it won't be at Muir. It'll be at Sixth College. And some of you will be really bothered by that because you'll say, hey, but I'm a Muir student. I want to live with my peers at Muir. And it's like the best the university can do. It's quite rare that you all will get upset about it, but rightfully so, you may be, and you have the right to be upset about it. But the university is pretty good about helping you out if you have your housing guarantee and to like figure it out. And it's a little bit of a puzzle piece, but the real answer is you'll work with HDH, you'll let them know you're going abroad, and we'll advise you on the process and we'll give you the resources when you apply.
What are the different programs? Like, I know there are some that are like 6 months, some are just 3 months. So like, what are the different options that there are there? Like, I don't like, yeah.
So programs range in length. You are always the driver in this. Also, Isabella, let me answer your question, but Cassandra, I'm looking towards you. Like, I also want to let any of you leave if you have the next program, if you have class, I don't know what's next, Cassandra.
There's actually nothing next after this, so this is kind of like the last part of the day. I'll stop recording, so if people are more like comfortable asking questions that way. But yeah, there's nothing left after this, so I guess it's fine if you just keep answering questions.
Okay, so I'm going to answer Isabella's